Chapter 46:13. What? The black-cloaked man's eyes darkened, and the muscles all over his body began to tighten at this moment. He didn't look back. He wanted to run past the little girl. But just as he moved, a fair hand pressed on his shoulder. It seemed to be gentle. In fact, that fair hand pressed the black-cloaked man so hard that he couldn't even struggle. "My good brother, I've finally found you." The soft and graceful voice of a woman came from behind him. In the ears of the black-cloaked man, it was as if death had come. "What question do you want to ask me? Just come and ask me personally. I will definitely tell you everything I know." The woman chuckled softly. The black-cloaked man's body tightened even more. His entire face seemed to be covered with a layer of haze. There was no fear, no fear. Ren. Patriarch Ren. The little girl stared behind the black-cloaked man, unable to believe her eyes. She actually saw the legendary strong woman. Ren Jianying. What did Patriarch Ren just say? Her good brother. Brother. The little girl blinked her bright eyes and looked at the black-cloaked man in front of her in astonishment. Before she could speak, she heard Ren Jianying's extremely indifferent voice. "Take her away." Soon, two figures rushed behind the little girl and tried to grab her. "Ren Jianying." The black-cloaked man shouted and suddenly reached out to grab the little girl. He moved his body. This time, he easily broke free from Ren Jianying's hand on his shoulder. He pushed the little girl behind him and leaned his back against the wall. He turned his head and looked at the woman who was high above him warily. This movement also caused the black-cloaked man's cloak to fall off his head. A handsome face was revealed. He looked a little embarrassed and haggard. Under his eyelids, there was still a very dark circle. That face, wasn't it the long disappeared Ren Jianming? Jianming. Ren Jianying's red lips curled up slightly and she called his name softly. "I haven't seen you for a long time. Don't you even have the most basic etiquette?" Ren Jianming couldn't hide his disgust. "Ren Jianying, don't think that I don't know what you want to do." "So what if I know?" Ren Jianying smiled contemptuously. She slowly raised her palm and tightened her fingers one by one. "The entire heaven realm is under my control. Even if you know what I want to do, so what?" Ren Jianying walked towards him with a smile. "My good brother, after being out for so long, it's time for you to come home with me." Ren Jianying blocked the little girl behind him and slowly retreated. His expression was solemn and cold. His eyes were filled with hatred and coldness. "Bah! Don't you dare!" He swept his gaze across Ren Jianying and then looked at the two guards who were surrounding her. He squeezed the little girl's hand. "Run as far as you can later." "Ha!" The little girl was still in a daze, unable to react at all. All of a sudden, she was flung away by a powerful impact. The man's anxious roar resounded in his ears. "Run! Run!" The little girl subconsciously broke into a run. Vaguely, he seemed to see the two guards beside the Ren family head chasing after him. However, they were directly stopped by the man. However, it was obvious that the man was no match for the two hidden guards. In just a moment, he was knocked to the ground by the two hidden guards. However, the man still forced himself to get up and hug the legs of the two guards. It was as if he was buying time for her to escape. The little girl's running footsteps suddenly stopped. Latest update, no pop-up window, please. Chapter 46:14. Alright, since you don't want anything to happen to that little girl, as your elder sister, I will naturally fulfill your wish. Ren Jianying looked at Ren Jianming, who fell to the ground in a sorry state. Back then, he was a playboy with great talent. At this moment, he was knocked to the ground by two secret guards. Ren Jianying's heart suddenly felt carefree. Her red lips smiled even more, and her eyebrows were full of pride belonging to a superior. I have been waiting for you for a long time. You are finally willing to show up. Let's go. I will take you home. Ren Jianying walked proudly to the place where Ren Jianming was lying. She slowly bent down and was about to reach out and pull Ren Jianming up. Suddenly, a gust of cold wind blew. Ren Jianying's eyes moved, and she quickly retreated. However, there was still something that pierced the skin on her face. There was some slight tingling. Ren Jianying raised her head and reached out to touch her cheek. But there was no wound. It was as if the stinging pain just now was just an illusion. Ren Jianying frowned. Her intuition told her that something was wrong. But she couldn't feel what was wrong. She narrowed her beautiful eyes dangerously and looked in the direction of the cold wind. She saw a little girl who looked 13 or 14 years old standing there with a fierce face, glaring at her. I'm warning you, let him go. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. The little girl's threat was not powerful at all. Ren Jianying frowned and glanced at the two secret guards. The guards quickly walked toward the little girl. Why are you back again? When Ren Jianming saw the little girl, his face suddenly turned pale. Didn't I tell you to leave? You were beaten by them because you wanted me to run away, the little girl explained seriously. I can't leave you behind and run away. As she spoke, the two guards had already rushed in front of her. However, the little girl's speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, she escaped from the attack range of the two guards. She was still approaching Ren Jianming. Ren Jianming listened to the little girl's naive words and didn't know whether to be touched or helpless. He looked at the little girl who had come to his side and lifted him up with an indescribable feeling in his heart. Are you stupid? If I didn't ask you questions, you wouldn't have been dragged into this. Ren Jianming's breathing was slightly shaky. You don't owe me anything. If you have the ability, then leave this place quickly. I took your crystal stones. The little girl lifted him up. Do you know who the person in front of you is? Ren Jianming tried his best not to put all his weight on the little girl. Patriarch Ren. The little girl tilted her head, her face filled with innocence and ignorance. I know what you want to say, but I have professional ethics. Chapter 46:15. Don't move. The little girl widened her bright eyes and said solemnly, Don't use your profound energy anymore. Ren Jianying chuckled softly, Little girl, are you threatening me? Threat? The little girl thought about it seriously, then shook her head solemnly, No, I'm warning you. Warning. Ren Jianying seemed to have heard something extremely funny, You dare to warn me? Yes. The little girl continued solemnly, I'm warning you very seriously. If you don't listen to me, you'll be the one suffering. The coldness and ridicule in Ren Jianying's eyes became even more intense, and the profound light on her fingertips became even more intense. Is that so? Then I'd like to see how you're going to make me suffer. She raised her hand. Profound waves pervaded the surroundings. The air seemed to have solidified. Ren Jianming blocked the little girl with one hand and pressed his chest with the other. His face turned pale under the oppressive atmosphere. Don't be nervous, she can't hurt us. The little girl patted Ren Jianming's hand, Believe me, I promise nothing will happen. For some reason. After hearing the little girl's words, his oppressive and heavy heart seemed to relax all of a sudden. His heart also calmed down. Inexplicably, he wanted to believe what the little girl said. Her promise was full of power. Obviously, the other party was just a 13 or 14-year-old girl who looked extremely innocent. Just as Ren Jianying's profound waves turned into sharp blades and slashed towards Ren Jianming. Suddenly, a hurricane surged in the sky. The surroundings were quickly covered by another terrifying aura. Immediately after, Ren Jianying's body was sent flying out of thin air and fell heavily to the ground. Ren Jianying slammed into the wall and spat out blood. Who is it? Ren Jianying wiped off the blood at the corner of her lips with force. Her malicious gaze swept around angrily. What kind of power was this? It actually appeared out of thin air. She didn't even have a chance to react. Now, in the entire heaven realm, who else could fight with her? Who was it? Miss Ren. No, now I should call you Patriarch Ren. A clear and sweet voice floated down. Immediately after, a figure that looked like a blazing flame pushed the hurricane aside and slowly walked over. The girl's footsteps were light and slow. Her dress fluttered along with her steps, like a blooming rose, bright and beautiful. Under the whirlpool-like hurricane that filled the sky, the young girl was like a pure and holy fairy of the ninth heaven. She descended from the sky, causing people to be unable to shift their gazes away, but they also didn't dare to meet her gaze. You took advantage of my absence to bully my people. Since when did Miss Ren like to do such filthy things? Ren Jianying heard the contemptuous and mocking voice. Ren Jianying's delicate body began to tremble slightly. His malicious eyes stared unblinkingly at the young girl who was approaching. His 5 fingers curled up one by one. There was hatred and panic in his eyes. But there was also an imperceptible excitement. Yes, excitement. Miss Gu, no. I should call you Yi Qing Luo. Ren Jianying slowly stood up from the ground. Even though she was sent flying in a sorry state, she still maintained her noble elegance as she slightly raised her fair neck and spoke arrogantly. You indeed appeared. Patriarch Ren and secluded palace's painstaking arrangements, isn't it to lure me out? Yi Qing Luo's lips curled as her expression was calm and unperturbed. I'm doing as you wish. Patriarch Ren should be happy. Chapter 46:16. Happy, this patriarch is extremely happy. Ren Jianying stared at Yi Qing Luo, as she squeezed out each and every word from between her teeth. Yi Qing Luo's smile deepened, but Patriarch Ren doesn't look happy. Alright, this patriarch is indeed unhappy. Ren Jianying's eyes were icy cold, as though there were raging waves in her eyes. The moment you came, you stopped this patriarch and my brother's reunion. No matter who it is, they would not be happy, right? Yi Qing Luo raised one finger, as she shook her hand. No, 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 I'm very happy. She smiled as her eyes curved, as she walked to Ren Jianying's side. Didn't I tell you to wait for me to come back? Why did you run out alone? Her suspicious gaze, as she looked at the young lady behind him, could it be because of this young lady? No. No. Ren Jianying anxiously opened his mouth to explain. She and I just got to know each other. She sells information. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose. Just got to know each other, but for you, she's not afraid of Ren Jianying's threat. She's quite a bold young lady. As she said that, she looked at the young lady with admiration. The young lady's eyes widened, as she stared at Yi Qing Luo without blinking. Hearing Yi Qing Luo's praise, the little face turned red. I'm just doing my duty. Not as good as what you said. That look made Yi Qing Luo want to rub her furry head. Young lady, why were you so sure that Patriarch Ren wouldn't be able to hurt you? Yi Qing Luo pushed Ren Jianying aside, as she hooked the young lady into her arms. This young lady looked very innocent. Not like someone who would do things to scare others. The young lady must have her reasons for saying that. Furthermore, Yi Qing Luo's peripheral vision glanced at Ren Jianying, as a glint flashed past her eyes. If she didn't see wrongly, Ren Jianying's condition was not right. Especially earlier, when she released her profound energy. She easily broke through Ren Jianying's attack. This wasn't like Ren Jianying's condition. I'm not called young lady, I'm Miao Xianxian. When the young lady saw Yiqing Luo's devastatingly beautiful face at such a close distance, a sliver of infatuation flashed past her eyes. He even stuttered when he spoke. The infatuation in the little girl's eyes. It wasn't a disgusting obsession. But from the bottom of his heart, he had taken a liking to her face. Alright, this little girl was also a fan of looks. Yiqing Luo pinched her cheek, meow. Big sister, you can call me Xian Xian. The little girl, Miao Xuanxuan's eyes were sparkling with happiness. Good girl, Xian Xian. Yiqing Luo gave a meaningful smile. I roughly understand why you're so certain that she won't hurt you. Miao Xuanxuan's eyes shone even brighter. Just like a resplendent star in the night sky, big sister, you found out. Yiqing Luo nodded smilingly. What are you talking about? Ren Jianying's face darkened as she listened to their conversation. Do you think that you can scare me just by acting mysterious? Yiqing Luo narrowed her long and narrow eyes as she tried to provoke her with a smile that didn't look like a smile. We don't talk in riddles, so. Let me tell you the answer personally. She pushed Miao Xianxian into Ren Jianming's arms. Immediately after, she leapt up. The glower flame fan on her fingertips opened up, sweeping across a large area of raging flames. A swoosh sound was heard. The profound rays were like scattered flowers, as it attacked towards Ren Jianying. She struck when she said she would, without any hesitation. Chapter 46:17. Ren Jianying sneered, courting death. She raised her palm to counterattack. Full of confidence. But just as her palm met Yiqing Luo's profound ray, she sensed that something was amiss. Her eyes widened in terror. She wanted to withdraw her hand to evade. But her body couldn't react in time. With a bam, the blazing red ray, majestic and powerful, directly broke through Ren Jianying's palm wind, falling onto Ren Jianying's body. Ren Jianying's body flew out from the impact, crashing heavily onto the wall. Cough. Cough, cough. She coughed out a large mouthful of blood, both her hands propped against the wall. Her body was weak and powerless. She raised her head, her eyes staring venomously at Yiqing Luo. What did you do to me? Ren Jianying's heart was filled with terror. When she made her move, she realized that her profound energy was totally unable to gather. Unable to be transferred as she wished. No. To be more accurate, it was her profound energy that was draining away bit by bit. Ren Jianying's eyes revealed a chilly glint, as she gritted her teeth and stared at Yiqing Luo. She remembered it clearly. Yiqing Luo was a poison expert. This must be Yiqing Luo's doing. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes, as she floated down from midair. She shook her head innocently. I didn't do anything to you, Patriarch Ren, don't malign a good person. It must be you. It must be you. Ren Jianying's fingers were clenched tightly, as her internal organs had been shaken by that wave of profound energy earlier, and were all injured. Her expression sunk slightly, as a faint cold glint surfaced in her eyes. Her hands suddenly reached into her bosom, as she fished out a signal flare. Her gaze stared vigilantly at Yiqing Luo. But she saw that the other party had no intention to stop her. Yiqing Luo even smiled as she reminded, throw it carefully. Do you have the energy to throw it in your current state? Don't suffocate yourself. Ren Jianying held onto the signal flare tightly, as her exquisite face was twisted. Eldest young Miss Gu, we can't let her call the Ren family over. Now is a chance, we should capture her. Ren Jianming pursed his thin lips tightly as he looked at Ren Jianying with a complicated gaze, while giving Yiqing Luo a suggestion. Yiqing Luo shook her finger, don't panic, don't panic. Even if we stop her, I'm afraid. There's no way to catch her today. The Palace of Darkness had used bait to lure her out. Naturally, he had made sufficient preparations. How could he let her take away this bait so easily? Even if Rin Jianying didn't take out the flare. In the end, he would probably be taken away by the people from the Nether Palace. There was no need for her to waste her time and heart to stop him. Rin Jianming did not understand the reason behind it. He clenched his fists and said, "If we let her go, it would be releasing a tiger back into the mountains. Now that she knows that you're back, she'll definitely take precautions. Little friend, don't be so anxious." Yi Qing Luo was about to pat Rin Jianming's shoulder before his hand fell. Then, she was stared at by a scorching gaze that made her hair stand on end, and she retracted her hand. Yi Qing Luo looked towards the direction where the gaze came from and smiled. Until that scorching gaze calmed down. Yi Qing Luo then looked towards Rin Jianming as her expression turned more serious. "Even if Rin Jianying is brought back, I'm afraid she won't feel good." Rin Jianming went into a blank. "You poisoned her." Looking at Rin Jianying's condition, it looked like she was poisoned. Yi Qing Luo rolled her eyes. "How can you guys malign me like this? I'm such a kind and gentle person, would I poison someone?" Rin Jianming replied, "Yes." The group behind him replied, "Yes." Rin Jianying replied, "If you didn't poison me, would I become like this?" Chapter 46:18. Yi Qing Luo. Couldn't she cooperate a little more? "You're not poisoned." Yi Qing Luo looked at Rin Jianying, "But it's worse than being poisoned." Rin Jianying had already thrown out the signal flare in her hand while Yi Qing Luo and Rin Jianming were talking. She stuck close to the wall, panting heavily as she stared at Yi Qing Luo vigilantly. "Yi Qing Luo, do you think that by poisoning me, you can solve the heaven realm's matter? I'm telling you, it's impossible." She caressed her neck with her hand. A wisp of coquettish red light floated faintly. Yi Qing Luo's fingertips moved. A scorching feeling surged in her palm. It was the reaction of a divine relic. The reaction of the Azure Dew Ring, Azure Dew Pendant and Azure Dew Chain. Rin Jianying was displaying the power of a divine relic. Yi Qing Luo's pupils shrank unconsciously as her brows creased. This wasn't right. How could Rin Jianying use the power of a divine relic? Didn't the divine emperor's blood have to be used before it could be used? Yi Qing Luo's eyes turned cold as the glower flame fan suddenly moved. Her 5 fingers suddenly grabbed towards Rin Jianying's neck. Rin Jianying was prepared as she suddenly rolled. Following that, he grabbed the guard beside him and pushed him towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. At the same time, Rin Jianying's fingertips were surrounded by a faint red glow. "You want this? You can try." Rin Jianying gently caressed the brilliant necklace on her neck. Looking at Yi Qing Luo's change of expression, she finally felt the pleasure of being in control. Azure Dew Chain. Barbaric Blood King was right. Rin Jianying indeed had an Azure Dew divine relic in her hands. As the Azure Dew Chain's light became more and more intense, Rin Jianying released the power of the divine relic. Little by little, it surrounded her body. There was no attack. It wasn't meant to be on guard. But Yi Qing Luo could feel the power of the divine relic emitting fluctuations. What was Rin Jianying trying to do? Lass, not good. Old Man Tsang's voice suddenly rang in her mind. His voice was very heavy. "That is a forbidden art, evil spirit summoning, evil spirit summoning." Such a Chinibu name. Evil spirit summoning isn't summoning evil spirits to do battle, but using the evil spirit aura to summon the same kind. Old Man Tsang said solemnly. Summoning his own kind. Yi Qing Luo knitted her eyebrows as she still hadn't digested the meaning of Old Man Tsang's words. Just then, the Azure Water Ring, Azure Water Chain, and Azure Water Pendant became even more restless. It seemed like it was about to leave his hand and rush towards the Azure Aqua Light Chain. Yi Qing Luo's mind suddenly sobered up. What you mean is... Ren Jianying had executed the evil spirit summoning, using the azure aqua light chain as a medium to summon the other azure aqua artifacts. That's exactly what I meant. Old Tsang was deeply worried. Once the azure water divine artifact in your hands is summoned over, the azure water divine artifact will no longer belong to you. Was this Ren Jianying's motive? Was this the goal of the secluded darkness palace? Did he want to obtain the vast water divine artifact from her? Yi Qing Luo's 5 fingers clenched tightly as her fingertips pressed onto the azure dew ring and the silk chain. That belonged to her mother. No one should even think of snatching it. Yi Qing Luo's gaze swept over the guards who had rushed over and lowered her voice. Protect yourselves, I'll go settle that woman. Sister. Miao Xianxian suddenly went forward and pulled Yi Qing Luo's arm. Sister, don't worry, I have a way to stop her. When Yi Qing Luo turned back, she saw Miao Xuanxuan's bright and innocent smile. Chapter 46:19. Immediately, Miao Xianxian raised her hand. Her slender fingers touched something in her palm. Not too far away, Ren Jianying, who was casting the spell, suddenly turned pale and a mouthful of blood gushed out. Her entire body started to twitch. Yi Qing Luo. Her hoarse voice screamed Yi Qing Luo's name venomously. Her voice was filled with agony. At the same time, the agitation of the vast water divine weapon gradually subsided. Well done. Yi Qing Luo touched Miao Xuanxuan's little head. I'll give you the crystal later. Miao Xuanxuan's eyes were filled with smiles. If it's sister, then there's no need for any reward. It was Xianxian who took the initiative to help sister. Ren Jianming. What differential treatment? Why do you have to collect money from me for asking a few questions? You're not as good looking as sister. Miao Xianxian said confidently. Ren Jianming. He was a man, why did he need to be so good looking? It's you. What did you do to me? What did you do? Ren Jianying apparently heard their conversation as she looked at Miao Xianxian with a complicated gaze. Her internal organs felt like they were being gnawed by something. She couldn't bear the pain. This pain. It didn't seem like she was poisoned. What did that young lady do to her? When did she do it? Miao Xianxian was frightened by Ren Jianying's heart-wrenching roar and her sinister look as she shrank back. Yi Qing Luo shielded Miao Xianxian behind her, blocking Ren Jianying's crazed gaze. Patriarch Ren, aren't you a little too confident in your ability to predict the major events of the future like the back of your hand? Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up as she laughed coldly. He allowed the guards of the Ren family to rush over and surround them. Her expression didn't show any signs of panic. Ren Jianying's expression changed again as her fingers clenched tightly, suppressing the intense pain in her body. Yi Qing Luo mentioned her secret again. Once again, she told him her secret openly. This was the secret she relied on to survive. She must not let Yi Qing Luo continue. Yi Qing Luo took in all the fluster in Ren Jianying's eyes. Yi Qing Luo sarcastically tugged her lips. Don't worry, I'm not too interested in your matters, I'm just reminding you. The present is no longer the future that you once knew. Are you sure that you can really be the final winner? The mockery in her eyes deepened as she looked at the young lady behind her. Master Ren, this young lady. Her surname is Miao. Ren Jianying was still in shock over what Yi Qing Luo said. Suddenly, he heard the last sentence. Her brain was in a whirl. Trash. Suddenly, a sinister and hoarse voice came from not far away. The guards of the Ren clan retreated and opened up a path. A man in a black robe slowly walked over. That person's entire body was surrounded by an evil aura. His skinny face seemed to be propped up by a few bones. It was extremely strange. A thick black mist surged in his eyes. What a dense qi, Yi Qing Luo frowned. This was the first time she had seen such a dense evil aura. It made her extremely uncomfortable. Just a few sentences and you've already defeated my will. What use do I have for you? That sinister and hoarse voice made Ren Jianying tremble as she raised her head. The gaze she shot at that person revealed a sliver of fear. Fear. There was actually someone who could make Ren Jianying feel fear. She thought. Ren Jianying thought that she was reborn, so she had nothing to fear. Latest update, no pop-up window, please. Chapter 46:20. Yes, rebirth. Ren Jianying was someone who had been reborn. From the first time she heard Ren Jianming mention Ren Jianying, Yi Qing Luo had this guess. From the age of 7, she knew how to act in front of the elders and knew how to grab the business opportunities to develop her own power. She didn't believe that she was a genius. Furthermore, she was able to accurately know what had happened to the various large clans, as though she knew the future. Wasn't that rebirth? Ren Jianying was able to make use of her rebirth advantage to carve out a place for herself in the heaven realm. This was her own method and Yi Qing Luo wouldn't interfere. But what Ren Jianying shouldn't do was to stretch her hand over to her side. Since she had chosen to cooperate with the Palace of Darkness, he had to accept any unforeseen event for his own choice and his own ambition. Because of her rebirth advantage, she wanted more and more, which eventually led to her ambition swelled. In the end, everything was heading in a different direction from what he had known back then. The current Ren Jianying. What advantage did she have from rebirth? Unfortunately, Ren Jianying didn't understand this logic. That black-robed man walked slowly to Ren Jianying's side and casually pulled her up. Grand Elder. Ren Jianying was in so much pain that her body was twitching. That slut, on me. On me. Yes, Gu. Miao Xian, surname Miao. Miao Gu family. The black-robed man looked at her coldly and threw her onto the ground in disdain. Useless fellow. That man immediately turned his gaze towards Yi Qing Luo and the rest. Finally, his gaze fell onto Miao Xian, cure the Gu. That sinister gaze and that sinister hoarse voice made one tremble in fear. The young lady was so frightened that she hid behind Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo held the young lady's shoulder lightly and welcomed that grand elder with a smile. The people from the Palace of Darkness are finally willing to appear. Yi Qing Luo. Grand Elder's eyes were gloomy like a poisonous snake. Don't think that just because you've gotten the upper hand repeatedly, you can maintain your good luck. It seems that my luck is indeed very good. Yi Qing Luo tilted her head and smiled faintly. Grand Elder must be careful, don't be killed by my good luck. The Great Elder's eyes grew colder and more terrifying. Don't be too happy yet. Who told you that I'm going to fight you? Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. Then Great Elder's meaning is, you want to let that waste fight with me? Yi Qing Luo glanced at Ren Jianying meaningfully. Yi Qing Luo. Ren Jianying's face flushed red from the humiliation as she clenched her teeth and stared at Yi Qing Luo with a distorted expression. The Great Elder just smiled sinisterly. I will make you hand over the divine weapon willingly. He waved his sleeve. Amidst the black mist, a figure slowly appeared before everyone's eyes. It was a man. He was about 20 years old and was dressed in a black robe. He exuded an unapproachable coldness from head to toe. A pair of pure blue eyes, without any emotions, stared at Yi Qing Luo without blinking. Leader. Ah Jean. When they saw that man, Yi Qing Luo and the rest's expressions suddenly changed as they called out that man's name in disbelief. Wasn't that man standing in the black mist, emitting a cold aura, Long Yun Zhan? It was Long Yun Zhan whom they had been searching for a long time. Why was he at the Palace of Darkness? Yiqing Luo's eyes stared intently at Long Yunjian. Chapter 46:21. Even if they were standing face to face at such a close distance, Yiqing Luo had not sensed any fluctuation in the blood pact between her and Long Yunjian. The man in front of her. Was it Long Yunjian? The both of them had once made a blood pact. As the master sighed, she should be able to clearly sense Long Yunjian's spiritual consciousness, as well as his current thoughts. But unfortunately, there was no connection between them. Could it be? Did the Palace of Darkness intentionally create a fake Long Yunjian to deceive her? It wasn't as though the Palace of Darkness had never done such a thing before. But no matter how much she tried to build up her heart and her mind, or how she tried to find excuses, she was unable to deny that the moment she saw Long Yunjian, she had already confirmed that this person was Long Yunjian. It was impossible that she couldn't even recognize her own brother. Even if that person, when he looked at them, there wasn't any expression on his face. That pair of azure blue pure eyes had no fluctuation of emotions. She was still certain. That person was Long Yunjian. Her brother who had once fought side by side, partner. Long Yunjian. Group leader. Yan Xiaoyi and Qiao Jin had already rushed to Yiqing Luo's side, as they stared blankly at the man standing opposite them. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. That was their group leader. They had walked all the way from Nirvana realm, from Devil class to the current class monitor. But now, he was standing opposite them. Against them. Qing Luo. Yan Xiaoyi grabbed Yiqing Luo's arm, as her palms were filled with cold sweat. Is he the group leader? Our group leader. Unable to believe that the person in front of them was the person who had experienced life and death with them. Yiqing Luo didn't reply for a long time. Between her eyes, some kind of emotion was spreading. Yan Xiaoyi's heart seemed to be clutched by a huge palm, as even her breathing became stagnant, unbearable. How could group leader? Could it be that the Palace of Darkness had controlled him? Qiao Jin still had some rationality, as he looked at Long Yunjian with a complicated expression. As he said that, he stretched out his hand to embrace Yan Xiaoyi, as he pressed her little head into his embrace, to let Yan Xiaoyi calm down her emotions. Yiqing Luo shut her eyes slightly, and when she opened her eyes again, that pair of eyes which the wind and the whirlpool had already calmed down, yes. Naturally, it was because he was being controlled that Long Yunjian stood on their opposing side. However, this time, it was different. There were some things that were different from simple control. She held on to Yan Xiaoyi's hand gently and patted it. Leave Ajahn to me. I'll wake him up. You guys, take care of the others. Don't give Ren Jianying another chance to unleash her forbidden curse. But, can you really do it? These few words were at the tip of her tongue, but Yan Xiaoyi couldn't say them out. Could he bear to do it? Should he do it? What if Yiqing Luo was able to do it? Should she stop it? That was their squad leader, their regiment commander, their comrade. What if Yiqing Luo couldn't bear to do it? Should she help? If Long Yunjian was controlled and repeatedly dealt a vicious blow to Yiqing Luo would have some misgivings. What should they do? What should they do? He had to admit it. The Palace of Darkness was getting better and better at manipulating people's hearts. There was no need for a frontal attack. He had already taken advantage of the relationship that they cared about the most, routed them. Xiao Yi, listen to Qing Luo. Qiao Jin held Yan Xiaoyi's little hand tightly, as he pulled her. Let's go over and talk to Huangfu Xing, to try our best to stop Ren Jianying. Chapter 46:22. Yiqing Luo's expression was slightly chilly as her eyes stared at Long Yunjian without blinking. The words she spoke were directed at Grand Elder. Now the Palace of Darkness is only left with such despicable methods. Aren't you the clearest about the Palace of Darkness's despicableness? Grand Elder wasn't infuriated. Instead he gave a cold laugh proudly. When you see your so-called brother standing on the opposite side of you, how will you choose? Will you choose to kill the other party for your own sake, or to fulfill your sentimental and righteous wish, to rather get yourself injured than to hurt him? Ha ha ha. This elder is really looking forward to this good show. Grand Elder laughed sinisterly. A pair of treacherous chilly eyes stared straight at Yi-Ching Luo, as though he was staring at his prey. Just as he was prepared to go up and capture her, Yi-Ching Luo's slender fingers clenched into a fist. She took a deep breath to calm her own emotions as her eyes gazed deeply at Long Yun Zhan. Ah, Zhan. She opened her mouth as her voice was slightly low. Since when did it start? Her question made one unable to make head or tail of it. This made Yen Xiaoyi, who was gritting her teeth in anger from Grand Elder's words, look towards Yi-Ching Luo in a daze. What did she mean by since when did it start? Wasn't the current Long Yun Zhan already controlled? How could he possibly answer Yi-Ching Luo's question? Just as everyone was filled with suspicions, they heard that expressionless, extremely cold man slowly opened his mouth. It was that day. Why didn't you come look for us? Yi-Ching Luo smiled when she heard that as she asked again. Long Yun Zhan's eyes moved slightly, like the ripples on the lake. Now, I'm here to look for you. Looking for me, that means. Right from the start, your target is me. Yi-Ching Luo laughed softly as her brows were curved. But if one listened carefully. However, one could hear the bitterness and helplessness in her laughter. Long Yun Zhan went silent, not knowing how to reply. Yen Xiaoyi, who was by the side, couldn't hold it in any longer when she heard their conversation. What do you mean? Ching Luo, what do you mean by that? Isn't Commander being controlled? Why? Listening to their conversation. But it seemed like the leader wasn't being controlled at all. Yi-Ching Luo took a look at Yen Xiaoyi as she pondered for a moment and wanted to reply. However, Long Yun Zhan spoke first. I'm not being controlled. That pair of azure eyes looked at Yen Xiaoyi. It was as if he was looking at a stranger, cold and emotionless. I have been a member of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness since the beginning. This sentence exploded in the ears of Yen Xiaoyi and the rest with a boom. They stood there in a daze. He could hardly believe what he was hearing. Were they dreaming? How could their most respected and amiable class monitor, who had grown up with them, be someone from the Palace of Darkness? At that time, how could there be a Tengu Palace? Ching Luo, didn't you say that the group leader is being controlled? Why did he say that? Did the people from Dark Shadow Palace force him to say that? Yen Xiaoyi couldn't believe her own ears as she shook her head and anxiously sought confirmation from Yi-Ching Luo. This news, if those people in the world group were to find out about it, probably everyone would break down. Looking at Yen Xiaoyi's hopeful and flustered eyes, Yi-Ching Luo's eyes dimmed slightly. She lowered her eyes as she replied calmly, yes, he is indeed being controlled, but he's conscious now. Latest update, no pop-up window, please. Chapter 46-23. WH. What do you mean? Yen Xiaoyi felt that her brain was unable to wrap itself around it. His eyes are very clear and very calm. There's no struggle, no unwillingness. Yi-Ching Luo's tone turned solemn. Clear meant that his consciousness was clear, and not that empty and soulless state after being controlled. Calm meant that under the condition that he was conscious, he accepted himself, standing on the opposite side of them. No struggle, no unwillingness, meant that there was nothing controlling his thoughts or willpower. Long Yun Zhan was willing to stand on the opposite side of them. Group leader he Yan Xiaoyi's heart tightened as her face turned pale. She suddenly looked towards Long Yunjian, opening her mouth. It wasn't to berate, not to question, but... Group leader, do you have something that you can't tell us? Did the secluded palace threaten you? Tell us. Tell Qing Luo. Didn't we say that no matter what happens, we will stand by each other's side unconditionally, to face all the problems together? No matter if it was Yan Xiaoyi or Qiao Jin. Or those people who were still in Nirvana realm or Earth realm, the world group. After hearing that Long Yunjian was conscious, and was willing to be their enemy. They all believed that Long Yunjian was absolutely not doing it on purpose. Even if, he was now willingly standing on the opposite side of them. That was because he had his own difficulties. They believed in their group leader. No. Long Yunjian replied calmly, between his brows, was calm and apathetic. I just recovered my memories. Recovered. Memories. Yan Xiaoyi and Qiao Jin exchanged glances, as their expressions sunk. Yes, Long Yunjian had lost his past memories. Long Yunjian didn't have any memories before he joined the devil class in Nirvana realm. But now, he said he had regained his memories. Regained. Memories related to the secluded palace. I'm from the secluded palace. My motive in devil class is to wait for your appearance. Long Yunjian looked at Yiqing Luo calmly. You are my target. Impossible. Yan Xiaoyi couldn't believe that the class monitor, group leader who had fought alongside her, was someone who had been scheming right from the start. How are you so sure that Qing Luo will definitely enter Heavenly Academy? How can you be sure that Qing Luo will enter the devil class? Xiaoyi, don't say any more. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath. The expression on her face didn't have much emotion. It was as if she had already guessed all of this. Ever since she saw Long Yunjian again. Yiqing Luo had already deduced most of the matters in her mind. He doesn't need to be sure, because there's the Gloomy Palace. The mastermind of Gloomy Palace had planned everything. The Palace of Darkness had confirmed that she would enter the Heavenly Academy and join the devil class. She was not surprised at all. I'm afraid that Ajan's memory loss is also the work of the Gloomy Palace. Yiqing Luo continued, if Ajan loses his memories, then he will be able to integrate into us and gain our trust, just like now. After that, he would find a suitable opportunity to let Long Yunjian recover his memories. It also allowed him to understand the mission that he had to complete. Yiqing Luo laughed softly as her eyes stared deeply at Long Yunjian. So, after you've recovered your memories, you've chosen the Palace of Darkness, intending to abandon this period of time, and everything that we've experienced. Long Yunjian's emotionless eyes flashed past a slight fluctuation. Very quickly, it disappeared in a fleeting moment. It was so fast that no one could catch it. The fastest update, no pop-up window to read. Chapter 46-24. But Yiqing Luo, who had been staring intently at Long Yunjian, caught it. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed past a flash of understanding. She curled her lips slightly, as though she was smiling, but there wasn't a hint of a smile in her eyes. On the contrary, it looked a little horrifying. No matter if you're from the secluded palace or not, or what kind of mission you're carrying, but... Yiqing Luo looked at Long Yunjian's blue eyes as she said word by word, you can't deny that you've once fought side by side with Devil Class and the World Group. Long Yunjian, are you sure you want to abandon everything? Long Yunjian's pupils contracted slightly. There wasn't any emotion on his expressionless face. But the hands which were hanging by his side slowly clenched into fists. This elder asked him to come out, not for you to reminisce about the past. Grand Elder originally put on a complacent look when he heard Yiqing Luo's questioning. No matter what Yiqing Luo asked. The more Yiqing Luo questioned, the angrier she got. To force Yi Qing Luo into a rage was not a bad choice at all. But under Yi Qing Luo's questioning, Long Yunzhan didn't say a single word. This made Grand Elder's heart sunk. Was he trying to incite Long Yunzhan's emotions? Ha! Naive. Since he made Long Yunzhan stand out to deal with Yi Qing Luo, that was 100% certain that Long Yunzhan would not be able to incite defection. He had no way to do so. Thinking of this, the great elder's lips twitched as he sneered, Yi Qing Luo, don't waste your efforts, don't forget. 3 days ago, he even stabbed his long sword into your body. Yi Qing Luo's expression turned cold. Mentioning this point, Long Yunzhan's pupils shrunk twice. There were slivers of faint light scuttling in his pupils. Yi Qing Luo's expression sunk slightly as her pink lips pursed slightly. Her gaze was as cold as ice as she looked at Grand Elder. So what? Nothing. Grand Elder laughed sinisterly. I only feel that your so-called brotherhood is really stupid and hilarious. He scoffed lightly. 3 days ago, the sword he stabbed into your body almost took your life, didn't it? If it wasn't for that ingrate, the palace master, who took advantage of the Lord's closed-door cultivation to save you, do you think you could have survived until now? When faced with someone who tried to kill you and nearly killed you in the past, you actually have extravagant hopes that he will change his mind. Are you a fool? After saying that, the great elder could not help but burst into laughter. His laughter was filled with mockery. What? Yan Xiaoyi and Xiao Jin's expressions changed instantly as they looked at Yi Qing Luo in astonishment. They knew that Long Yunzhan had stabbed Yi Qing Luo. But she had never thought that the injury would almost cost Yi Qing Luo's life. I'm fine, don't listen to his nonsense. Yi Qing Luo's gaze was still fixated on the changes in Long Yunzhan's expression. She acutely saw Long Yunzhan after hearing the words of the great elder just now. The expression on his face changed slightly. If she hadn't been staring at it, she probably wouldn't have noticed this subtle change. Nonsense. Grand Elder seemed as though he had heard a joke as he laughed out loudly. You know very well that this elder isn't talking nonsense. And to think that Palace Master did it for you, I'm afraid. He's going to be tortured by the Lord till he's no longer human. Yi Qing Luo's heart thumped fiercely. As though there was an icy cold hand, tightly grabbing onto her heart. Squeezing it hard. Making her feel as though she couldn't breathe properly. She couldn't maintain the calm expression on her face any longer. End of this chapter. Chapter 46-25. Even though she knew that Grand Elder's words were probably to disturb her heart. But, she was still affected by Grand Elder's words. Gu Jingyu he. Was it because he saved her, or was he discovered by the people behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness? Then, was he punished? When Gu Jingyu saved her, she had some guesses in her heart. Based on her understanding of the people behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness. Everything that Gu Jingyu had done, the people behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness should know it like the back of their hand. Only the difference was, the people behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness didn't want Gu Jingyu to know that he actually knew everything. Perhaps, at that time, Gu Jingyu himself was very clear about it. But he still chose to save her. Ha ha ha. What a good show. Grand Elder didn't hear Yi Qing Luo's rebuttal and counterattack, so he knew clearly that his words had an effect on Yi Qing Luo. Toward someone who hurt you, almost taking your life, painstakingly persuading her, talking about true feelings and loyalty, but ignoring the other person, the person who really saved you. Yi Qing Luo. You're not that kind. Shut up. A furious berating was heard from the side. What followed was a tyrannical profound wave. Grand Elder's black robe shook. Looking as though it was effortless, he split that profound wave apart. His complacent and savage laughter stopped abruptly at this moment. A pair of long and cold eyes were suffused with a sinister cold glint as he looked towards the direction of the voice. Long Yunjan, you dare to make a move against me? I asked you to shut up. Long Yunjan's pair of pure blue eyes was like the ocean, setting off thousands of huge waves. Numerous waves were surging under his gaze. Evil intent overflowed. He held a long sword in his hand, giving out a clang-clang sound under his palm. You! Grand Elder's gaze took a look at that long sword. As though he was afraid of something, he retracted his gaze furiously. Long Yunjan, I can't be bothered to say any more. But, let me give you a piece of advice, you're no longer the class monitor of Devil class, nor some group leader of the world group. Your identity is the guardian of the Palace of Darkness. If you dare to betray the Lord, you know very well what the consequences will be. After the great elder finished speaking, he threw down his black robe heavily and leaped onto the eaves of a nearby house. With his hands behind his back, he looked as though he was only here to spectate and not participate in the battle. Long Yunjan did not speak. His entire body was surrounded by a vicious aura and dark force. Bit by bit, it eroded the surrounding air. Without the great elder sowing discord at the side, the atmosphere between the two of them became extremely gloomy. Ah, Jean. The girl's voice was not as sweet as it used to be. It was cold and indifferent. Is what he said true? His voice grew softer and softer. It was as if he was afraid to hear the real answer. According to Long Yunjan's understanding of her, Long Yunjan knew what she meant. She was asking if Gu Jingyu's condition was real. Long Yunjan's thin lips moved slightly. He wanted to speak. However, his voice was a little bitter. His ice-cold heart was throbbing with pain at this moment. He would rather be in a controlled state right now, a puppet state. At least, he didn't need to face Yiqing Luo. But unfortunately, he was very clear-headed. Very, very clear-headed. So clear that he was standing on the opposite side of Yiqing Luo, listening to Yiqing Luo's questions. His heart felt as though it was pierced by needles. But he was unable to turn back, and was unable to respond to Yiqing Luo's words. End of this chapter. Chapter 46-26. To answer Yiqing Luo. To answer. That would be to confirm the good show which Grand Elder mentioned. A joke. After some time, Long Yunjan's hoarse voice rang, yes. Just one word, as though it was filled with the endless suffering of the world. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes trembled slightly. Her eyes glowed faintly as it revealed some blood color. Ah Jean, what you said is. Does it mean that from the moment you stabbed the sword, you already knew? That sword was smeared with the profoundine fragrance. Long Yunjan's gaze didn't change, yes. Yiqing Luo suddenly laughed. That laughter was filled with deep sorrow and disappointment. The gaze which she looked at him was no longer the shock from earlier, but calmness without joy or sorrow. Ah Jean, I know. Your choice. Her voice was cold and apathetic. That kind of cold and detached attitude. It made Long Yunjan's pupils shrink bit by bit. His heart was in extreme pain. He wanted to speak. But the words which were at the tip of his mouth were kept back into his throat. There was already nothing more to say. Qing Luo. Qing Luo. Seeing Yiqing Luo's expression, Qiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi called out Yiqing Luo's name in a fluster. They stared intently at Long Yunjan, unable to believe that in the end, they and their group leader would walk to such a stage. That was their group leader. If it wasn't for Long Yunjan's appearance. They were afraid that when they were in devil class, they would really continue to fall. How would they be able to have such a colorful and glorious life now? Even if they saw it with their own eyes. They were unable to believe that their group leader would part ways with them. Yiqing Luo raised her hand, making an action to stop them from speaking. Following that, her expression was calm as she looked at Long Yunzhan calmly. Her pink lips rose slightly, but it wasn't a smile arc, but I'm afraid secluded palace has miscalculated. Long Yunzhan went into a slight blank. Yiqing Luo smiled again. You've guessed what I want to do, right? Long Yunzhan's expression changed again. Yiqing Luo's gaze went past Long Yunzhan and landed on Grand Elder. She revealed a smile that was as bright as a flower. Who told you that if you hand over Long Yunzhan, I must fight him? Want to see us kill each other? It doesn't exist. If we can't beat you, can't we run? As soon as the girl's voice fell, deafening explosions suddenly erupted in the surroundings. A profound wave that shook the air rapidly spread in all directions. After the profound wave dispersed, in front of them, where was Yiqing Luo and the rest? F***ck. The great elder's face was ashen, and his facial features were so twisted that he couldn't help but curse. He quickly flew down from the eaves and scanned the surroundings. Where are they? Where is he? He ran away. Long Yunzhan stood in place, motionless like a stone statue. Ran away. How could you let them get away? Did you intentionally let them escape? Grand Elder had never seen someone as shameless as Yiqing Luo. The fight hadn't even started, and he was already running away. How could such a large group of people escape in such a short period of time? Long Yunzhan lifted his eyelids lightly, his blue eyes as calm as still water. Do you think I can stop a venerable sovereign? The great elder's expression was even more unsightly. He scolded loudly, but there was nothing he could do. He took large strides towards Ren Jianying, and directly pulled her up. Trash. Meeting Yiqing Luo, that slut, all of you have become trash. Let's see how you explain to His Highness this time. Chapter 46-27. The instant Grand Elder turned around, he didn't notice that Long Yunzhan slowly shifted his gaze towards a certain direction. Slowly. Heaved a sigh of relief. He lowered his eyes as he congealed on the azure blue long sword in his hand. Luckily, he didn't need to make a move on her again. Luckily, he didn't really make a move. At this moment, Yiqing Luo and the rest were on the back of the magical beasts. Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian were sitting on Little Nine's back. Chi was carrying the rest of them. They stopped at a rather secluded area in the forest before Yiqing Luo got Little Nine to find a place to stop. Qiao Jin and Yen Xiao Yi were both preoccupied. They had just leapt down from Chi-Chi's back as the two of them welcomed Yiqing Luo. Qing Luo. Group leader he really. Yiqing Luo recalled Chi-Chi back as she randomly found a rock to sit on. Right, if we didn't run earlier, we should be fighting with Zhan right now. Qiao Jin and Yen Xiao Yi's expressions congealed slightly as they pursed their lips tightly, unable to say a single word. They had interacted with Long Yunzhan the longest. Their relationship with Long Yunzhan was the deepest. Yiqing Luo didn't participate in the matters before they went to devil class. But Yiqing Luo knew. To Qiao Jin and Yen Xiao Yi, Long Yunzhan was their salvation. It was Long Yunzhan who led them to pull themselves together again. Setting up a new goal for them, giving them a new life. Not only the both of them. Everyone in devil class was the same. Why? Group leader is from secluded palace. Until now, Qiao Jin and Yen Xiao Yi were still unable to believe this fact. If this matter were to spread to the world group's brothers' ears, how much pain would their brothers be in? He didn't even dare to think about it. It's my fault. Yiqing Luo leaned into Dmo Xian's arms. Secluded Palace's target is me, and Ajan is a chess piece of Secluded Palace. It's not your fault. Yan Xiaoyi hurriedly said, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have met group leader. Yiqing Luo's eyelids drooped as her eyes dimmed. I ran because I didn't want to go against Ajan. She took a deep breath. Secluded Palace really knows how to use the thing that we care the most, and even hurt us. Once? What about the second time? Huangfu Xing looked at Xiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi's pained expressions and straightforwardly asked the most crucial question. You have to solve the problem of facing him. As a bystander, Huangfu Xing hadn't gone through life and death with Long Yunjian and the others, so he was the one who could tell the problem most directly. I'm afraid that is the goal of the Abyss Palace. Even if Long Yunjian did not complete his mission, his appearance has disturbed all of your hearts. Gu Zixi walked to Yan Xiaoyi's side and hugged her gently. Although Xing's words aren't pleasant to hear, they are the truth. You can be sad, you can be upset, but you can't let yourself be defeated because of him. The few of them fell silent. The two of you, don't be so sad. I didn't even say that I'm going to stand against Ajan. Can you listen to me for a moment? Two voices sounded at the same time. Yiqing Luo paused her voice and looked towards Miao Xianxian, who had spoken out earlier. The young lady's bright eyes stared straight at her. Yiqing Luo waved her hand, asking Miao Xianxian to come over. The young lady immediately ran over to Yiqing Luo's side. When she got close to Yiqing Luo, but she was stopped in her tracks by the man behind Yiqing Luo's gaze. Chapter 46-28. Don't scare the young lady. Yiqing Luo gave Dmo Xian a stare and squeezed his palm hard. Perhaps this is Ajan's savior. Ha! Dmo Xian shot a cold glance at Miao Xianxian. Savior. The fact that I didn't kill him just now means that I've been patient enough. Yiqing Luo was all smiles as she wrapped her arms around Dmo Xian's neck, as she leaned close to his face and planted a kiss. Yes, 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 I know my Xian has been extremely patient because of me. Reward him with a big one. That tone was as though she was coaxing a large-sized dog pet. She was just short of rubbing his head. Unfortunately, Dmo Xian enjoyed it. The moment the young lady took the initiative to kiss him, he then mercifully shifted his icy cold eyes away from Miao Xianxian. He lowered his head tightly and played with the young lady's slender fingers. Come here. Yiqing Luo waved at Miao Xianxian. The young lady looked at Dmo Xian in fear and hesitated. Yiqing Luo smiled. With me around, he won't dare to glare at you. Miao Xianxian hesitated for a moment before she moved her feet and walked to Yiqing Luo's side. But she didn't get too close. Instead, he stood 2 steps away from Yiqing Luo and stopped. Qing Luo, what do you mean by what you said earlier? We don't need to go against the group leader. Is there any other way to wake the leader up? Yan Xiaoyi's face was filled with anxiety. Don't keep me in suspense, I'm dying of anxiety. Yiqing Luo's lips curled slightly as she winked at Miao Xianxian. Didn't Xianxian have something to say? Let's hear what Xianxian has to say first. Yan Xiaoyi and the rest looked towards Miao Xianxian in unison. It was rare to be stared at by so many people. The young lady was shy and unnatural as she averted her gaze. Wait. Wait. Ren Jiaming couldn't stand it anymore as he walked to Miao Xuanxuan's side and pulled her behind him, blocking Yan Xiaoyi and the rest's gazes. She's just a young lady who sells information and has nothing to do with this matter. Because of me, she has been implicated and offended, my eldest sister. When Ren Jiaming mentioned Ren Jianing, he looked very ashamed. He pursed his thin lips. We can't drag her into this anymore. From the moment she sold the information to you, she was already involved. Yan Shaoyi frowned. This matter has nothing to do with you, don't interrupt. What do you mean it has nothing to do with me? Ren Jianming stood in front of Miao Xianxian to protect her. The young lady is only involved because of me. That's enough. Your regiment commander's matter has nothing to do with the young lady. Can't you see that she's afraid? What do you want to force her to say? Because of Long Yunzhan, he was already anxious and frustrated. Yan Shaoyi had been suppressing her emotions. Now, because of Ren Jianming's interference. Moreover, he used a blaming tone. Yan Shaoyi instantly exploded. What do you mean? The guild leader has nothing to do with you, so of course you wouldn't understand our feelings. Since Xian was allowed to speak, it meant that Xian had her own views on the matter regarding the regiment leader. Xian hasn't said anything yet. What are you shouting for? Ren Jianming's expression froze. Both sides' arrogance was ignited at this moment. At the moment when swords were drawn. A light cough interrupted the two's tit for tat. Can't the both of you wait for the young lady to finish her words? Yiqing Luo's gaze lingered on the both of them. What if the young lady is frightened by your quarreling? Latest update, no pop-up window, please. Chapter 46-29. The two of them looked at each other and shut their mouths. Yiqing Luo pointed at Qiao Jin, pull your wife back. After that, she looked at Ren Jianming. The young lady hasn't spoken yet, why are you so nervous? Why, have you taken a fancy to her? Ren Jianming's face flushed red in an instant. Took a fancy to Miao Xianxian. The person he liked, was obviously. Ren Jianming couldn't describe the feeling in his heart. He felt a burning sensation on his face. He turned around and looked at Miao Xianxian behind him, wanting to say yes. But when he met the young lady's bright eyes, his face turned even redder. Ah Luo, what nonsense are you talking about? I don't mean that, I just... You don't need to explain to me, you know what you're thinking about. Yiqing Luo waved her hand with an I understand expression. Ren Jianming. He was even more confused now. Yiqing Luo looked at Miao Xianxian with a beaming smile. Her voice was clear and sweet, but it was just a normal chatting tone. Xianxian, because of Ren Jianming's matter today, I'm really sorry for dragging you into the Ren family's fight. Miao Xianxian stuck out her little head from behind Ren Jianming and shook her head vigorously. It's all right, I'm not afraid of her. Now. I'm afraid she's the one who's afraid of you. Yiqing Luo laughed softly and continued, regarding my friend's matter. If you're not willing to help, I understand, so you don't need to have any psychological burden. I'm willing. Miao Xianxian blinked her bright eyes. Why wouldn't I be willing? Do you know? Once you're involved in this matter, there's a possibility that your life will be in danger. Ren Jianming listened to the young lady's innocent words, his heart was filled with worry. He held the young lady's arm with both hands and said solemnly, the enemy we're facing is not as simple as the Ren family's patriarch, there's a more complicated force behind. I know. Miao Xianxian looked at Ren Jianming's worried face. She suddenly smiled brightly. She hugged Ren Jianming with both hands and said in a clear voice, thank you for your concern, I know what you want to say, and I know what I'm doing, don't worry. The young lady's face was covered in dust and her body was covered in dust. But, when she hugged herself, Ren Jianming felt a soft warmth in his arms. The unique fragrance of a woman seeped into his nose. His heart trembled violently. His body was stiff and he couldn't react at all. Miao Xianxian only hugged him for a while before letting go of him. She then looked at Yan Shaoyi and the others. Actually, I came to the heaven realm because of the guild leader that you all mentioned. Let me reintroduce myself. My surname is Miao, and my name is Miao Xianxian. I'm the next holy lady of the Miao Gu family in the earth domain. Miao. Miao Gu clan. Yan Xiaoyi looked at Miao Xianxian in shock. You're the holy maiden of the Miaogu family. Yiqing Luo opened her mouth to break the silence. Since Aunt Miao and the Miaogu family invited you over, they definitely believe in your ability, and I also believe that you can do it. But, she paused for a moment. Have you guys ever considered that with Ajan's current condition, there's no way he'll cooperate with us to dispel the goo? The others were slightly startled. Indeed. Now, Long Yunjian didn't even have the chance to talk to them. Not to mention cooperating with them to cure the goo. How could the Palace of Darkness give them such a chance? Yan Xiaoyi muttered to herself for a moment and suddenly thought of something as she raised her head to look at Yiqing Luo. Qing Luo, previously why did you say that we won't go against group leader? And the reason why he would stand on the Palace of Obscurity's side is not only because of the heart-devouring parasite, what other reason is there? She asked. End of this chapter. Chapter 46-31. I haven't thought of that yet. Yiqing Luo shook her head. The only thing I can be sure of is the thing that threatens Ajan is as important as us. Leader, he must be feeling terrible. Yan Xiaoyi lowered her eyelids and leaned her head on Qiao Jin's shoulder. If it was really as they had guessed. The reason why Long Yunjian stood on the opposite side of them. It was because he had his own difficulties. It was only because they were standing opposite each other that they almost started fighting. They were in so much pain and suffering. Then, their leader would probably feel even worse than them. Personally stabbing the sword into Yiqing Luo's body. Almost took Yiqing Luo's life. He forced himself to stand in front of them and face their swords. He even had to hide all of his emotions. Actually, Long Yunjian was in more pain than them. Secluded Palace. Yan Xiaoyi gritted her teeth, pausing between each word. I really want to kill the person behind Secluded Palace. Is he really that happy to play with our feelings? That's because that man will never be able to experience the feeling of being loved. That's why he's jealous. Yiqing Luo comforted him softly. Find a chance to test Ajan. As long as we solve the problem from the root, Secluded Palace's motive will not succeed. What should we do? Yan Xiaoyi asked. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly as a dangerous glint flashed past her eyes. Tonight, Xian and I will head over to the Ren family to check on the situation. You all follow Ren Jianming to hide first, in case the people from Secluded Palace find you. Yan Xiaoyi also wanted to follow. But it was also clear. The fewer people there were, the safer it would be. She could only suppress the worry in her heart and agree, you guys have to be careful too. The Palace of Gloomy Shadows is very cunning. Knowing that His Majesty is here, they will definitely take extra precautions. To guard against trouble. I don't think so. Or rather, the Palace of Gloomy Darkness was waiting for them to visit the Ren family at night. But this guess, in order to prevent them from worrying, Yiqing Luo didn't say it out. The night was as dark as ink. The night sky was quiet and dense. It gave off a chill that made one's hair stand on end. It was as if he was announcing that there would be no peace tonight. Two silhouettes stepped lightly onto the jade tiles. Everywhere he went, there wasn't the slightest sound, and he floated silently like the wind. In a short moment, the two of them were already standing inside the Ren clan's mansion. The Ren family was silent. It was so dark that one couldn't even see their own fingers. Not even a single candle was lit. There wasn't even the slightest hint of a human aura. Generally speaking, families with large forces like these would not be able to afford to offend them. Every night, 2 candles would be lit at regular intervals to illuminate the area. However, the Ren family was in complete darkness. Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows. Could it be that this was how the Ren family welcomed their night visit. Under the night sky, the girl's bright and charming eyes met the man's. Dmo Xian locked onto her waist and immediately leapt up. With a few leaps, he landed on the other side of the Ren family. It was still quiet and dark all around. There was not the slightest bit of light. But at this moment, a slight sound came from behind him. It was very obvious. There were still people living in the Ren residence. Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian quietly approached the source of the sound. He landed in an extremely spacious courtyard. The sound of Ren Jianying gasping in pain came from inside. Damn the Miao Gu clan, it hurts. There was even a maid comforting her in a low voice. But Ren Jianying, who was in extreme pain, how could she hear other people's voices? She was annoyed and furious, and because of the goo worms in her body jumping up and down, the pain was unspeakable. Update complete moi. My computer crashed while I was in agony. It kept crashing and the blue screen kept crashing. The kind of blue screen the moment I turned it on, it's tormenting me so much that I'm about to collapse. Sob sob sob, please comfort me. End of this chapter. Chapter 4632. Yiqing Luo. You slut. I will definitely take revenge for this. Ren Jianying cursed hoarsely, her voice was already hoarse from all the shouting. It was Ren Jianying's courtyard. From the looks of it, she should be suffering from the goo worm that Miao Xianxian had planted on her. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly as her lips curled. This was Ren Jianying's own trap. She couldn't blame anyone else. But based on Ren Jianying's current status, over at the secluded palace, they should more or less care about her. Why? Ren Jianying was suffering from the goo worm and was in so much pain. The secluded palace actually had no intention to help her, leaving Ren Jianying to howl in pain. Could it be that they weren't worried that Ren Jianying's condition would easily shake the other powerhouses? That hand on her waist wrapped around her waist tightly. The man's boiling hot chest pressed tightly against her back. It made her body immersed in warmth. His entire body was filled with a man's elegant sandalwood scent. Dmo Xian bent down slightly as his thin lips slowly moved towards Yiqing Luo's ear. His low voice was like a stream of air as it drilled into her ear. Lil Luo, look at her neck. That ticklish feeling was like a feather, tickling her skin, her heart. Yiqing Luo was starting to suspect if he did it on purpose. Knowing that her ear was sensitive, he still moved so close. Yiqing Luo's little hand pushed him. Just as she moved, the man seemed to know what she wanted to do as he accurately grabbed her little hand and stuffed it into his big palm. That thin lips by the side of her ear lightly moved again. Look. You're still looking at her neck. Yiqing Luo pinched the arm which was across her waist. After giving a cold humph, she shifted her gaze towards Ren Jianying's direction. Just at this moment, her gaze had yet to land on Ren Jianying. Suddenly, her waist tightened. The man hugged her and with a leap, he silently stepped onto the jade tiles. At the same time, a figure which had completely blended into the night slowly appeared at the entrance of Ren Jianying's room. Yiqing Luo's angle was just nice to see everything below. That figure, wasn't it the Grand Elder whom she saw in the afternoon? Why did he come to Ren Jianying's room? In the afternoon, he was clearly extremely disdainful of Ren Jianying, and he didn't seem to care at all. At this moment, he was actually going to visit her at night. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes curled into a devilish smile. She had a feeling that something 18+ was about to happen in the room. Yiqing Luo stuck her little head out and looked into the room. Her head was heavily knocked by the man's well-defined fingers. Yiqing Luo hugged her head and gave him a stare. From below, the servant girl's respectful voice rang out. Great Elder. You may leave. The great elder waved his hand, his cold voice sounding even more treacherous in the night. After the great elder stepped into the room, Ren Jianying, who was moaning in pain on the bed, also stopped. However, if one listened carefully, one would be able to hear her gasps and muffled groans of pain. The door was quickly closed. Only the first elder and Ren Jianying were left in the room. Ren Jianying. The great elder's voice was gloomy as he slowly called out Ren Jianying's name. The person on the bed shrank slightly. But she stubbornly turned her back, unwilling to look at him. The petite figure trembled slightly on the bed. The great elder slowly walked to the side of the bed. Just as he was about to sit down, Ren Jianying's hoarse voice was heard. Didn't the secluded palace intend to give up on me? Why are you still here for? Latest update, no pop-up window, please. Chapter 46-33. The great elder stared at Ren Jianying for a while before saying, "Why? Are you blaming me? How dare I?" Taking a deep breath, Ren Jianying suppressed the cramping pain in her body and said, "I know myself very well. I know that I am just a dispensable chess piece of the dark nether palace. How can I blame you?" The great elder sat down by the bed. His black robe was scattered beside the bed. He put his hand on Ren Jianying's body. Ren Jianying's delicate body trembled even more. "To the palace of darkness, you're dispensable. But, to me, you're very important." The great elder used that gloomy voice to say such romantic words. It inexplicably made people have goosebumps all over their bodies. Ren Jianying took a deep breath and slowly breathed out a scorching breath. If you really, really value me, you won't be willing to part with me. How about this?" Her body trembled. She couldn't bear the pain. She slowly turned around and looked at the great elder. After all, she was a person who had been reborn. She knew very well how to use her advantage. Even if her body was being corroded by the poison and was in great pain, Ren Jianying could still maintain her most beautiful posture. Her face was pale from the pain. But she stubbornly didn't make a sound. She looked at the great elder with a pitiful gaze. Immediately, the coldness and ruthlessness on the great elder's body dissipated a little. The great elder stretched out his skinny fingers. His fingertips were full of calluses as he caressed the delicate skin of the woman. He grabbed Ren Jianying's wrist and tapped on her body. Ren Jianying's entire body went limp. She was sweating profusely as she panted heavily. In that instant, the pain in his body finally ceased. That coquettish look made the great elder's eyes burn with evil fire. He grabbed the woman's wrist and suddenly pulled her into his arms. Ren Jianying's delicate body stiffened, but soon softened. "It doesn't hurt anymore, right?" the great elder asked with an evil smile. Ren Jianying nestled in the great elder's arms. Her delicate body seemed to be boneless, sticking softly to the black robe. When she opened her mouth, she was still panting slightly. "It's only temporary," she tilts her head back. Her pale and beautiful face was reflected in the great elder's eyes at close range. There was also sweat rolling down her forehead. 1 ton. Calm. Wonderful bookstore calm. Chapter 46-34. It also carried a deathly aura. Ren Jianying's body stiffened. He wanted to avoid it, but he didn't dare to. "Don't talk so much nonsense. While there's still time, let me have a taste of being sick of you first." The first elder's cold and vulgar words rang in Ren Jianying's ears. There was still time. Did the Tenyu Palace not intend to let her live? Ren Jianying's eyes were dark under the night sky, and a hint of coldness could be vaguely seen. However, when the great elder bent down, she took the initiative to wrap her arms around the great elder's neck, trying her best to please him. At this moment, Yiqing Luo, who was nestled on the roof, saw everything that happened in the house. He had also heard the conversation between the two of them. But Yiqing Luo's gaze fell directly onto Ren Jianying's neck. The candlelight in the room was dim. He could vaguely see the entangled figures on the bed. Ren Jianying leaned against the bed. His clothes had long been disheveled. A large portion of her fair skin was exposed. Around his neck, there was a necklace with a fiery red light flowing through it. It was extremely eye-catching. That was the azure water chain of light. The azure water light chain that belonged to her mother. Just now, Dmo Xian wanted her to look at this necklace. Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk slightly as her slender fingers clenched tightly. She would never let Ren Jianying and the Palace of Darkness taint her mother's things. As though he sensed Yiqing Luo's thoughts, the man who was sticking close to her raised one hand and blocked her eyes. There was a faint warmth in his warm palm. The man leaned over and whispered in her ear, "Don't look, it'll dirty your eyes. We'll snatch that necklace back later." He had to snatch it back. However, if he snatched it openly, he might disturb the Palace of Darkness. There's no hurry. Dmo Xian hooked her body and brought her away from Ren Jianying's courtyard. The flirtatious sounds in the room gradually faded away. This continued until it stopped on the other side of the Ren residence. "The person you're looking for is not in the Ren residence." Dmo Xian hugged her tightly. Long Yunzhan was not in the Ren residence. Long Yunzhan was the person specially arranged by the Abyss Palace to deal with her. The Palace of Gloomy Darkness had finally managed to lure her out. They definitely couldn't let Long Yunzhan leave the old city now. Long Yunzhan was not in the Ren residence. That meant, in this old city. Calm. Wonderful bookstore calm. Chapter 46-35. No wonder when Ren Jianying saw Grand Elder, she couldn't help but reveal a fearful reflex action. It turned out that this Grand Elder liked to play with some exciting things. TSK. She was indeed a reborn person, her psychological quality was really strong. She knew that the other party didn't really care about her. She also knew the other party's bad habits. But in order to achieve her own goal, she voluntarily offered her own body. A woman who was so ruthless to her own family. Indeed. It was easy to succeed. If Ren Jianying didn't choose the wrong partner. Perhaps Ren Jianying's ambition could really be achieved. But unfortunately, ambition was bigger than her own ability. And to cooperate with a partner whom she couldn't control. This doomed her to failure. After the maidservant finished packing, she left. Ren Jianying laid in the bedding without moving. If it wasn't for that pair of eyes, occasionally blinking. Yiqing Luo thought that Ren Jianying had been played to death. This filthy thing must not be seen by Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo covered Dmo Xian's eyes with both hands and turned towards him. "Wait at the door, I'll go in to get the azure aqua light chain." From the first floor. Dmo Xian's vision had been fixed on her, not shifting away for half a second. Hearing Yiqing Luo's words, he frowned slightly. The young lady leaned forward and planted a kiss on his face. "I'm not asking you to leave, you stay at the door. If there's a trick, I'll call you." Perhaps that kiss pleased the man. The man released her slender waist. Yiqing Luo was about to enter the room. Suddenly she thought of something, turned around and stared angrily at Dmo Xian. "Don't peek at her. Dirty eyes." Dmo Xian smiled lightly as he pinched the young lady's cheek. "If I want to see, I only want to see Lil Luo's naked body." Yiqing Luo. Her face blushed slightly as she stared at Dmo Xian and entered the room. In the room, the maid lit up the incense to remove the smell. Her footsteps were silent. The person on the bed sensed something. "Get out, no one is allowed to come in. But there was silence for a moment, there was no response. Ren Jianying's suppressed emotions exploded at this moment as she looked over angrily with a hoarse voice. This patriarch asked you to get out, didn't you hear? The question mark word had yet to come out. Ren Jianying's pupils constricted when she saw who it was. The expression on his face darkened. What are you doing here? Ren Jianying suddenly sat up on the bed. The pain in her body made her suck in a breath of cold air. The bright red marks on his arm seemed to show the humiliation he had just suffered. Ren Jianying immediately pulled up the bedding and covered her skin. You want to see my joke, right? Now that you've seen it, are you satisfied? He looked like a wounded hedgehog. She didn't have any of her usual arrogance as a strong woman. Chapter 46-36. Hearing the solemnity in Yiqing Luo's tone, Ren Jianying laughed coldly as her face was filled with a malicious smile. Do you really think that Long Yunzhan still remembers your past relationship? He's from the Palace of Darkness, and right from the start, he's from the Palace of Darkness. His motive is to deal with you. As she said that, she laughed even more maniacally. Long Yunzhan is a chess piece which the Palace of Darkness specially arranged by your side. You actually believe in a chess piece? Hoping for a chess piece, to develop feelings for you. Ren Jianying laughed as her brows were filled with ridicule. Let me tell you, after you left yesterday, Long Yunzhan told Grand Elder. Based on your character, you will definitely come to the Ren family at night and asked us to take precautions. At this point, the smile on her face gradually disappeared. Her 5 fingers clutched the bedding tightly. If it wasn't for the fact that Grand Elder doesn't believe in Long Yunzhan's words, do you think that you can stand in front of me now? Ren Jianying's words were like thunder, falling into Yiqing Luo's mind. Bursts of roaring filled her ears. Indeed. Based on Long Yunzhan's understanding of her, he definitely knew that tonight, she would come to the Ren family to look for him. He told this matter to Grand Elder. Did he want Grand Elder to catch her? Long Yunzhan was sincere. Or was there any other reason? Only by personally asking Long Yunzhan would he be able to get the answer. No matter how turbulent her heart was. Yiqing Luo's expression was as calm and indifferent as usual, without any fluctuation of emotions. But aren't I standing in front of you now? Yiqing Luo laughed lightly as she indifferently got closer to her. And you, how are you going to escape from my hands? Ren Jianying's laughing expression instantly froze on her face. Her hands clasped the bedding tightly as her body tensed up. You can't possibly make a move on me. This is the Ren residence and there are many people from the Palace of Darkness around. If I were to scream, you won't be able to escape. Why don't we try and see if you die first or if I get caught first? Yiqing Luo smiled as she stood by the bedside, condescendingly looking down at the lady on the bed. Ren Jianying's body shifted backwards. Yiqing Luo, you don't come over. As for the girl, she slowly approached. Ren Jianying, whose eyes were filled with shock, shrank back a little when the young girl approached her. Suddenly, the corners of Ren Jianying's mouth curled into a strange smile, and she stretched her arm out from under the blanket. In her hand was a wooden box which was filled with profound yin qi, as she threw it towards Yiqing Luo's direction fiercely. Ha ha ha. Yiqing Luo, did you really think that I didn't have any precaution at all? Grand Elder doesn't believe Long Yunzhan's words, but I believe. Ren Jianying's face was distorted, filled with the crazy pleasure of revenge. This is the witchcraft spell that I got from the Great Elder. Didn't you take that person from the Miao family away? I want to see what method she has to cure you. Paw. The wooden box fell to the ground. Ren Jianying's smile froze on her face once again. Because, at the moment when the wooden box was hurled towards Yiqing Luo, Yiqing Luo's figure had actually disappeared in front of her eyes. Until the wooden box fell to the ground. The girl appeared on her bed. A hand hooked onto the necklace around her neck. A caw sound was heard. The necklace fell into the young lady's fair slender fingers. Ren Jianying went into a blank for a moment, as her pupils suddenly widened, as both her hands swiftly pressed onto her own neck. This is my thing. Let go. Let go. End of this chapter. Chapter 46-37. Your things. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as her lips curled into a smile which didn't look like a smile. Are you sure this is yours? Ren Jianying stared at that brilliant necklace in Yiqing Luo's hands as her eyes were filled with terror. Yiqing Luo. You broke it and gave it to me. This is mine. She pounced towards Yiqing Luo and stretched out her hand to snatch the necklace. This necklace was given to her by the Dark Palace. It was also the most important thing for her to improve her strength. With this necklace, her strength was much stronger than before. Without this necklace, how could she make those restless powers in the heaven realm submit to her? Most importantly, the Great Elder would never let her off. The Netherworld Palace would not let her off. Thinking of these consequences, Ren Jianying's pupils constricted as her actions of pouncing towards Yiqing Luo became even more frenzied and impatient. Under the bedding, her skin, which was full of red marks, was exposed. Ren Jianying didn't care. She just wanted to get the necklace back. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as her smile was overflowing, revealing a flirtatious cold arc. The moment Ren Jianying pounced on him, his figure disappeared in front of Ren Jianying. It was as though he had fused with the air. Ren Jianying missed and looked around in panic. But he saw Yiqing Luo standing in the direction of the entrance. How? How did she do it? How did she get to the door? Ren Jianying's bloodshot beautiful eyes stared deadly at Yiqing Luo. That brilliant and vibrant necklace rippled into a beautiful arc on Yiqing Luo's fingertips. Ren Jianying jumped down from the bed. Guangguo's body fell heavily to the ground with a thud. As for the wooden box that fell to the ground, the dense mysterious Yin Qi seemed to have found its target and rushed towards Ren Jianying. A horrified expression appeared on Ren Jianying's face. His body suddenly shrank back. No. No. That was the goo of witchcraft. It was the witchcraft worm which Grand Elder had instructed her to take the opportunity to plant on Yiqing Luo. It was definitely not something good. Ren Jianying was terrified and wanted to climb onto the bed. But how could her speed be faster than the Wu goo? A wisp of black aura darted toward Ren Jianying. In an instant, it swallowed Ren Jianying. In the darkness of the night, Ren Jian's painful screams could be heard. Bang! The door was kicked open. Dmo Xian's figure appeared in front of Yiqing Luo. Not waiting for Dmo Xian to speak, the young lady had already pounced into his arms and stretched out her little hand to cover Dmo Xian's eyes as she shouted in a domineering manner, "Don't open your eyes and don't peek." Ren Jianying was not wearing anything. She did not want her Xian to see another woman's naked body. Dmo Xian didn't move and obediently closed his eyes. Yiqing Luo's hand had not moved away from his eyes, even if the man couldn't see it. His long arms were still wrapped around the girl's waist. His thin lips moved slightly, and his voice was low. "Let's go." Yiqing Luo pulled him along and changed their positions. He turned his back to Ren Jianying. Only then did she release his gaze. Following that, her arms wrapped around his neck and with a small leap, she leapt into Dmo Xian's arms. The man caught her steadily and held her firmly on her hips. "We've already gotten the azure aqua light chain, let's go." Yiqing Luo swayed her little feet. Dmo Xian carried her and walked out of the room. The black mysterious yin qi made Ren Jianying's body revealed a little outline. She curled up on the ground as she cried out in pain. Chapter 46-38. Yi Qing Luo, don't be complacent too early. She stared venomously at the two figures who were walking out of the room. She used all her energy to howl hysterically, as long as your heart is soft, Long Yun Zhan will definitely kill you. What kind of feeling is it to be killed by the person you trust the most? Ha 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 ha. Yi Qing Luo, you're just a pitiful worm. Did you think that you can make Long Yun Zhan return to your side, to talk about brotherhood with you? No. Impossible. He has already been washed away by the secluded palace. He's now a chess piece who only listens to the arrangements of the secluded palace. Either you kill him, or wait to be killed by him. He won't have any sense of guilt, because he doesn't have a heart, he doesn't have a heart at all. Ren Jianying vented the anger in her heart. The intense pain from the witchcraft worm made her lose her rationality. She knew that Yi Qing Luo valued Long Yun Zhan very much. She also knew, as long as Long Yun Zhan was mentioned, it was a thorn in Yi Qing Luo's heart. And that person who had already walked out of the room stopped in his tracks following her words. Ren Jianying knew that her guess was indeed right. Her words had indeed pierced into Yi Qing Luo's heart. As long as Yi Qing Luo was in pain. As long as Yi Qing Luo was in pain. No matter how much pain she was in, she could take it. Looking at Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian's harmonious and loving look, Ren Jianying only felt that it was a thorn in her eyes. On what basis could Yi Qing Luo obtain the one and only love? To make the overlord dote on her so much. And she spent so much effort. But she couldn't get what she wanted. She had to force herself to climb from this man's bed to that man's bed. On what basis? She was obviously not worse than Yi Qing Luo. Not any weaker than Yi Qing Luo. Why was heaven so unfair? Giving her a second life but treating her in such a way. If her ending was like this, then why did she have to be reborn? Ren Jianying's heart was filled with resentment and anger. Suddenly, she seemed to have thought of something, and under the devouring of the witchcraft worm, her lips curled upwards. Yi Qing Luo. Do you want to know why was Long Yun Zhan washed away all his feelings by the secluded palace? Do you want to know why Long Yun Zhan became a puppet? Ren Jianying burst out laughing. Not waiting for Yi Qing Luo's reply, he directly gave his answer. You probably don't know that Long Yun Zhan likes you, right? A chess piece had developed feelings for his own mission target. Ha 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 ha. What a joke. He likes you, and it's the kind of affection between a man and a woman. Bang! A gust of wind blew over. Dmo Xian's sleeves fluttered. The entire courtyard collapsed with a loud crash. Ren Jianying was engulfed in the collapsed building. Ah Xian, Yi Qing Luo grabbed Dmo Xian's arm and suppressed his agitation. Dmo Xian's brows were filled with viciousness. But when he lowered his eyes to look at the girl, the expression on his face quickly softened. However, even if it was a gentle expression, Yi Qing Luo could tell he was angry. Moreover, very angry. Yi Qing Luo hugged him tightly as she rubbed against his chest and propped up her waist as she placed her forehead on his. Her motive is to disturb my heart, don't be angry. Her stupidity touched his face. How could Zhan like me? This kind of lie, no one would believe it even if I told you. Chapter 46-39. He really likes you. Dmo Xian's voice was a little deep, and she could faintly hear the suppressed anger in it. Yi Qing Luo blinked her eyes as she used her forehead to knock against his forehead. Are you silly, to actually believe what she said. I've known since a long time ago that he likes you. Dmo Xian held her hips, making her more comfortable in his arms. However, that pair of shimmering peach blossom eyes looked at her very seriously. So, I don't like you to be too close to him, and I don't like you to save him. Yiqing Luo, she was a little confused and couldn't wrap her head around it. Wait. Yiqing Luo shook her head. No, if Zhan likes me, what does Ziqing count as? Ever since he Long and Yunzhan met. She clearly sensed that the atmosphere between Long Yunzhan and Tong Ziqing was obviously different. All that was left was for someone to speak up and break the ambiguous deadlock between them. Then, they would be together officially. Why did it suddenly become Long Yunzhan liking her? If Long Yunzhan really likes Tong Ziqing, he wouldn't have made Tong Ziqing wait for him for so long. Dmo Xian's voice was a little cold. After finishing this sentence, he stared at Yiqing Luo. His eyes darkened. Under the dim light of the night, he appeared even more indescribably handsome. He suddenly lowered his head and bit the tip of the girl's nose. I'm jealous, he muttered. That aggrieved look was very much like that of a large canine pet. Yiqing Luo sighed. What's there to be jealous about? Look at me. Till now, I still don't know that Zhan might like me. You don't need to know. Dmo Xian's tone became more serious, as if he was a pet fighting for attention. You only need to know that I love you. That's enough. This man was flirting again. Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand and pinched his face. All right, don't be in a hurry to be jealous, I'm afraid we're in trouble. It was indeed troublesome. How could it not be troublesome? The two of them were so unbridled in the Ren family. Ren Jianying's voice and hysterical roar. In such a quiet night, how could it not attract the attention of others? Especially, earlier, Dmo Xian had directly flipped Ren Jianying's courtyard. It caused such a huge sensation. The guards of the Ren residence and the people from the Dark Abyss Palace rushed over. Dmo Xian's expression did not fluctuate. His deep eyes looked at her deeply. Coincidentally, I'm not in a good mood. These people came just in time. Yiqing Luo. A jealous man was really scary. The first elder came in a hurry. He hadn't even put his clothes on properly. Obviously, after tasting the sweetness from Ren Jianying, he returned to the base to rest in satisfaction. When he heard the commotion, he hurried over. On seeing Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian, Grand Elder's expression sunk. You too? His brows creased tightly as his gaze fell onto the necklace in Yiqing Luo's hand. Azure water chain. The Great Elder clenched his teeth and looked at the ruins. As expected of trash who can't do anything right. I told you that she would come to the Ren residence tonight, but you didn't believe me. A cold voice came from behind the first elder. Long Yunzhan's expression was cold. Under the night sky, his azure eyes were emotionless and cold. How would this elder know that what you said is true? The first elder's expression was ugly as he turned his head and looked at Long Yunzhan. You and that woman used to have such a good relationship, how would this elder believe you? Now, do you believe me? Long Yunzhan shot a glance at him indifferently, without any ridicule or any other meaning. Latest update, no pop-up window, please. Chapter 4640. Grand Elder's face turned black as he didn't continue talking to him. After Long Yunzhan appeared, Yiqing Luo's vision was fixed on him. Her eyes were sparkling like water waves as she stared at Long Yunzhan without blinking. Ever since Ren Jianying mentioned Long Yunzhan, she could still lie to herself. All these were fake. Ren Jianying intentionally mentioned it to agitate her. But now, Long Yunzhan appeared personally. Personally said, He had indeed made use of her understanding of her to help Secluded Palace. Only, Secluded Palace didn't appreciate it. She snorted lightly, and a cold mocking expression flashed across her face. "You're not allowed to look at him." A large palm covered her eyes. A man's unhappy voice was heard, "I'm very unhappy now." Earlier, Yiqing Luo found out that Long Yunjian liked her. Now, Yiqing Luo was still staring at Long Yunjian. Even if Dmo Xian knew that his wife had no feelings for Long Yunjian. But the moment Yiqing Luo's gaze looked over, he was unhappy. The young lady's long lashes slowly swept past Dmo Xian's palm. Her hand covered his palm as she slowly moved it away. "All right, I won't look anymore." "Long Yunjian, don't you want us to believe you?" "All right then. Now, make a move on that woman and let me believe you." Grand Elder saw the young couple were still kissing each other and his expression instantly turned ugly. Long Yunjian didn't say a word as he drew out the long sword in his hand. The blue profound glow was extremely dazzling in the quiet night. He held up his long sword as he walked towards Yiqing Luo step by step. Seeing Long Yunjian's actions, Grand Elder couldn't help but burst out laughing. "I love this kind of internecine drama the most, ha ha ha." In the day, Long Yunjian faced her with his sword. Now, Long Yunjian had once again used that sword which had once protected the World Group's brothers and aimed it at her. Even though she had many explanations for Long Yunjian in her heart, and had thought of numerous reasons for him. But when it came to this situation, Yiqing Luo's heart couldn't help but feel dull pain. "Stand properly." Dmo Xian pulled her behind his back. His broad and tall figure blocked Yiqing Luo's line of sight. The man's entire body faintly emitted an oppressive profound energy. Yiqing Luo's little hand clutched his robes tightly as her gaze went past his body, looking at that expressionless Long Yunjian. Don't kill him." Dmo Xian did not speak. He leaped. The sleeves of his purple robe fluttered. She was like a proud and aloof purple lotus. Bang! The terrifying dark radiance engulfed the entire Ren residence. The ground cracked open and the buildings collapsed layer by layer. The surroundings were filled with screams. Immediately after, the man moved and appeared in front of Long Yunjian. He moved his palm and countless dark force wrapped around Long Yunjian like silk threads. Long Yunjian reacted quickly and slashed with his saber. It actually withstood a wave of Dmo Xian's attack. A shocking profound light lingered in the sky. Yiqing Luo's eyes were fixated on Dmo Xian's body without blinking, as her heart started to palpitate uneasily. She could tell Dmo Xian was really angry. These Ren residence's guards and Secluded Palace's people had all become Dmo Xian's tools to vent his anger. Watching Dmo Xian and Long Yunjian cross hands, Yiqing Luo was still worried that Dmo Xian would injure Long Yunjian seriously because he had injured her. Her attention was focused on Dmo Xian and Long Yunjian. She hadn't noticed that a figure behind her was silently approaching her. Chapter 46-41. Until Yiqing Luo's ears twitched. She vaguely heard something amiss in the wind. As soon as he turned around, he saw the Great Elder's extremely terrifying face. Seeing Yiqing Luo's reaction, he laughed sinisterly. "Yiqing Luo, be good and take a nap, in case you suffer." Following Grand Elder's words, his black robe moved. What met her was a ball of thick black yin qi. Yiqing Luo immediately evaded. But Grand Elder's fingers were like eagle claws as he swiftly locked onto her shoulder. And just as Grand Elder was closing in on Yiqing Luo, Lil Luo, Dmo Xian's eyes turned sharp as he raised his palm towards Long Yunjian's chest, speedily heading towards Yiqing Luo's direction. It was thrilling and dangerous at this critical moment. Not waiting for the crowd to react, a figure appeared in midair in the direction where Yiqing Luo had retreated. Yiqing Luo directly crashed into that person's arms. Elegant plum fragrance, with a hint of coldness, poured down. Yiqing Luo subconsciously wanted to leave that person's arms. That person's long arms suddenly exerted strength as he locked her waist tightly, pressing her tightly into his arms. Yiqing Luo couldn't struggle free. Following that, an irresistible profound ray rippled out from that person's sleeves. The two figures disappeared from the Ren residence. Damn it! The great elder gritted his teeth and cursed. This sudden interruption had snatched away the prey that was already in his hands. Lil Luo, Dmo Xian's eyes were filled with frost. The coldness between his brows seemed to be able to condense the surrounding air into frost. His frozen gaze looked towards Long Yunjian. You'd better pray that he won't hurt Lil Luo, otherwise. Even if Lil Luo, speaks up for you, this lord will not be lenient. Earlier, he was able to rush to Yiqing Luo's side in time. He waved that palm. Long Yunjian could totally avoid it. But Long Yunjian didn't avoid it. Instead, he took the initiative to meet him. And it was that action that made Dmo Xian pause for a moment. And it was that moment. When he rushed towards Yiqing Luo, he was a step too late. He could only watch Yiqing Luo being taken away by someone. Long Yunjian didn't respond to Dmo Xian's words. A pair of azure blue eyes stared unblinkingly at the direction where Yiqing Luo had disappeared to. In his eyes, one could vaguely see a deep meaning that couldn't be dispelled. Yiqing Luo was held tightly in someone's arms. Until his feet touched the ground. That person still had no intention of letting go. He held her tightly in his arms. He greedily absorbed her scent. After struggling to no avail, Yiqing Luo's expression turned uglier and uglier. She simply stopped struggling and said coldly, Zhu Wuxin, if you don't let go, don't blame me for using poison. His voice was cold and emotionless. The person who was hugging her stiffened. Little by little, he loosened his grip on her waist. Yiqing Luo left his embrace and took 2 steps back before she slowly raised her head to look at him. The man in front of him was dressed in a fiery red robe, and his black hair draped over his shoulders. There wasn't much emotion on his cold and handsome face. A pair of icy cold eyes stared at her without blinking. There were too many emotions beneath his eyes which Yiqing Luo couldn't understand, and didn't want to understand. What are you doing? Yiqing Luo looked at him as she asked. The man in front of her, on that icy cold face, slowly surfaced a different expression. He looked at Yiqing Luo as he said word by word, I miss you. Miss her. Miss her very much. Ever since they parted the last time. He restrained himself and didn't look for her again. But he couldn't help but miss her. Chapter 46-42. Rumble, rumble, rumble. A deafening explosion sound reverberated through the entire space. In the space, profound waves surged, as though a monstrous huge wave, wave after wave, crazily attacking. Even the sky had turned into an extremely oppressive deep black. The aura, crazily entangled, swallowing Yiqing Luo entirely. Yiqing Luo. This scene made the palace lord's pupils abruptly widen, as he screamed out Yiqing Luo's name hoarsely. He wanted to dash towards the side where the profound energy was surging. But his path was completely blocked by the Linglong Palace's disciples. Get lost. Get lost. The palace lord of the Linglong Palace bellowed furiously. The overbearing energy crazily sent the people who were blocking in front of him flying. But there were still numerous female disciples who came forward wave after wave. Under the black robe, that pair of gloomy and sullen eyes overflowed with large black threads. If he wasn't shrouded in the black robe, then everyone could see. That pair of eyes was like a densely packed spider web, with numerous black threads. Those black threads, bit by bit, lingered in his pupils. Boundless evil qi overflowed from the palace lord of the Linglong Palace. That piece after piece, like a thin fog, the evil qi, speedily spread in all directions. Everywhere it went. Those Linglong Palace's female disciples who were flocking towards him, all had a huge change in expression. Immediately following that, the expression on their faces started to turn sinister. One by one, they tore each other apart, tangling together. She realized that the evil qi which spread out was not right. Linglong Palace Lord's expression changed slightly, as she speedily retreated a few steps. She waved her sleeve. A transparent barrier blocked in front of her. It blocked off all the evil energy that was spreading over. But she had avoided the evil qi. But those female disciples who were guarding the surroundings were all affected by the evil qi. The method of killing each other was extremely vicious. Just a moment later, the entire space was filled with a thick blood stench. Blood also dyed the ground red. This scene made Linglong Palace Lord's expression sunk. She raised her voice, "Wake this palace lord up. What do you all look like?" It was so easy for him to be attracted by my mind. However, no one heard her voice. Without these obstacles in the way, he would not be able to stop them. The palace lord of Ethereal Palace immediately rushed towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. In the meantime, earlier that wave of boundless energy which had engulfed Yi Qing Luo suddenly exploded with an extremely dense and intense aura. Bang! There was a loud noise. A fiery red shadow flashed past in front of his eyes. It was really fiery red, it was like a flame, dazzling and dazzling. That red was blinding for an instant. The surrounding air seemed to become extremely hot as a result. The surging heat and the blazing heat roasted everything around it. The ground was littered with corpses, and the smell of dried meat emanated from them. Many female disciples were affected by the evil yin energy. Like a wild beast, he opened his mouth and began to tear at his opponent's flesh. It was an extremely bloody and cruel scene. The first judicial judge and the third judicial judge's relaxed faces immediately tensed up. He immediately raised his head and looked in the direction of the fiery red shadow. His entire body instantly froze. It was a giant bird that was entirely red in color. Its phoenix feathers were like flames, overflowing with brilliance and vibrant colors. As it spread its wings, there were rays of light flowing, extremely dazzling. Vermilion bird. One of the 4 sacred beasts, Vermilion bird sacred beast. Update completed. Mwah. Tomorrow the Overlord will make a dazzling appearance thanks to Disaster, 8 100 book coins, Say Goodbye with a Smile, 588, 4100, book coins, Juju, S reward love you all, end of this chapter, 97. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.